the product owner in Scrum is accountable for maximizing the value of the product, and they do this by effectively managing the product backlog, which is easier said than done, just in terms of the sheer work involved, but it's even more tricky when we have to be able to justify our decisions around the prioritization of items in the product backlog. And that means now we have people dynamics, now we have conflict of interests, and that's where these things get really tricky. So what can we do to help us out? Well, the first thing I'm going to recommend, which is why I've made a lot of visual here, is talk about the importance of trying to switch from the language of priorities to order. And it sounds silly and it sounds arbitrary, and trust me, I have argued with many other people until I agreed, because I thought actually maybe they did have a point about this. And we're going to explain that same point of view to yourselves, and hopefully it'll make sense to you too. And if not, please do argue with me. I would love to hear your thoughts on the matter as well. But the idea is a priority is subjective. And if you have, in this instance, 8 stakeholders, well, each of these 8 stakeholders will have their own number one priority. The number one thing that, if done, would make them very, very happy, deliver lots of value for them, and make them a very happy stakeholder indeed. And when you put all of their number one priorities into the product backlog, well, now you have 8 number one priorities. So when you start talking about which is the number one priority on your product backlog, well, they're all going to be thinking about their own thing, because to them, that is the number one priority. And now you are trying to impose a different priority on their number one priority than what they already had in mind. And that can get a bit sticky, right? So when you just tell them, well, it's a number one priority because I said so, we run into some issues, right? That's not great. So what can we do? Well, first of all, we should switch to the language of order instead of priority. And again, that sounds arbitrary, but it looks a little bit like this. We have 8 number one priorities here, but now we put them in order in the product backlog from 1 through 8. Well, now when we ask which one is number one in the order, there is only one, because in any numbered list, only one of them can be on number 1. And 1, you're still going to have the issue that someone's going to have to be number 8. No one likes being number 8, but someone has to be. And when you look at it this way, and you explain it this way, your stakeholders, well, they're not dumb, they're very smart people. They're usually in the position they are for a reason. And when you show it to them this way, they will go, yeah, no, you're right, someone does have to be at the bottom, but please don't let it be me, right? Because my thing is the most important. The next thing to look at then is, okay, so that is the order. And instead of me saying this is the order because I said so, first focus on why are they in that order in terms of perhaps, like this item, how do they contribute to getting us closer to the product goal, right? What is the immediate value that you think is inherent to these items? And in many ways, if you can't show the work, right, if you can't really justify why these things are valuable enough to be at number 1, or why that item should be at number 8, maybe you need to get some further information, and maybe your stakeholders can help you with that. It is important to remember that if you are a product owner, and if you are working in an organization where you have a product owner, you really do need to make sure that they are empowered to make these decisions, however, because, well, if all, in this instance, 9 people, 8 stakeholders plus the product owner, are trying to agree on a single order, you'll be there all day. You'll never get any decisions made, and oftentimes a bad decision done quickly is better than a good decision made too late. So another way to approach it is essentially through this reasoning, right? Well, your input is valuable to me, and differing views on why the product backlog order should be different is invaluable. So to ensure we don't get stuck in analysis paralysis the way we used to, I reserve the right as the product owner to make a decision based on the information at hand. And what you're essentially saying is, if you can't show me why this order should be different, I'm going to reserve the right to make this decision. Or maybe you're showing me evidence, but I still don't agree with it, or I don't think it's compelling enough to change this, but at least we've had the conversation. At least we're looking at data and information and saying, hey, this is not just my opinion, this is based on solid reasoning. This is based on numbers, data, figures, whatever it might be, or some kind of informed opinion, at least. And that tends to help out. Sometimes, however, we might have to give it, right? I always say the number 1 rule of product ownership and Scrum Mastery, don't get fired, right? If you really want to see this thing succeed, if you're not there, you can't make any changes. So sometimes we might want to compromise just so we can continue working on the next day. It's not the intent of Scrum. It's not what I want to be happening to any product owner out there, but sometimes it's the lesser of two evils. And over time, we can continue working on this, and if your stakeholders overrule you, and their overruling leads to less value being delivered, well, that is further data we should bring to the table. And we can continue having these conversations on and on. Because guess what? This is not going to be a one-time conversation. This is pretty much the everyday of a product owner. Why is my thing number 8? Why is their thing number 1? And that's it. So, make it visual, move from priority to order, and find good reasoning and good data, and invite differing opinions and differing evidence. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Oscar with Pragmatic Shift. You can find more of our stuff under @Pragmatic Shift on all social media. I would love to be your Scrum coach. And if you're interested in working with me, you can find my courses on pragmaticshift.com or about me as a coach under scrumcoach.uk. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out and gives us further reach to get to more professionals to help them on their journeys as well. Thank you again for watching.